Yeah, and that's very much front and centre at the moment. I've just come here from the centre of Paris today. You'll see on the left bank here, and looking over towards the Tour Eiffel, the Eiffel Tower, you can see the rings of the Olympics. They're just putting the final touches to the beach volleyball courts at the foot of the tower. There are stands going up all around central Paris, so that very much is the focus for the city. What you don't want in the midst of all that is political chaos. It's just not the example you set to the world when you're hosting the biggest sporting celebration. But it is going to be a very difficult process to find some sort of solution from all this. Let's get some analysis, shall we, from Gesine, who is an expert on European defence and geopolitics. She's at the research. She's a research fellow for the German Marshall Fund, and also here Martin Baloge, who is a professor of political science. Welcome to you both. Gesine, let me start with you in the context of what we've been discussing earlier in our programme. The bombing in Ukraine, the difficulties at the moment across Europe in how they confront Russia, and the NATO summit that is coming up in Washington this week. I've been saying through the morning, it feels like we're at a pivotal point here, and maybe France's closest allies will be breathing a sigh of relief that the National Rally is not going to be playing a part in all that.
Yes, so France's partners all across Europe, I think, were very reassured yesterday, and it was indeed a big moment of relief for European capitals. We have, for example, seen that in the tweet from Polish Prime Minister Tusk, who said it's a good reason to be happy in Warsaw. And I think particularly for Ukraine, the election result is certainly good news. To the extent that even though we do not know yet where the country is heading in terms of domestic policy and also in terms of how it's going to be governed, we know that even within the left bloc, and despite what Mélenchon, who leads the LFI movement, sort of far left, has generally said, that overall there is still a big consensus for the importance to support Ukraine and also on the importance of the European project. So that is the positive side of that. The more uncertain side of everything is that it is highly unsure how long it will take to form a government, what this government will finally prioritize, and also how the division of power between the president and the prime minister is going to play out. So first of all, it was good news for Europeans, because a Rassemblement National government would have been very bad news and could have catalyzed centrifugal forces in the EU, so from within. But now they are also dealing with a France that is heading into uncertainty and uncharted territory in terms of how to build a government of a coalition.
When we look at the figures across the various parties who might play a role in that, Martin, one of the interesting names that pops up is François Hollande, the former president who won his election yesterday in Corrèze, seeing off the rally. It's very, very unlikely that he would become the next prime minister. That would almost be the master becoming the student, given that he'd employed Emmanuel Macron as his economy minister. But do you see a role for François Hollande in this, to find some crossover between the socialists and the centrist alliance?
I think it's very difficult to imagine. François Hollande is actually not a consensual figure in the Nouveau Front Populaire. François Hollande is marked on the right side of the Parti Socialiste. Right now, even the Parti Socialiste is more governed on the left with Olivier Faure. I don't think that François Hollande has many allies among the LFI, for instance. So I think in the Nouveau Front Populaire, he has the experience of a former president, but in the Nouveau Front Populaire, he will not have so much allies. And that's the problem, because he will not manage to encourage the Nouveau Front Populaire to move toward the center, and I think it's a huge dimension to take into consideration. The Nouveau Front Populaire, the center, and le Rassemblement National are very polarized on many topics. The last 7 years, Emmanuel Macron governed mostly on his right. The Nouveau Front Populaire has a strong influence of LFI on the left, and the Rassemblement National is not an option to govern with. So I'm not sure that he will have a lot of mediatic presence, of course, but I'm not sure that he will guide the hypothesis of a coalition with the center.
Just very quickly, Martin, what is Gabriel Attal's role in all this now?
Right now, it's more a functional role. As you mentioned it, we have very important rendezvous in the next week with the Jeux Olympiques. And I think it's very difficult to imagine a new government to take charge during this short lapse of time. And actually, I'm not even sure that for the NFP, for the Nouveau Front Populaire, it would be a good idea to be put in charge and deal with such an organization that has been going for months or years. They have more to lose than to gain, I think, to take in charge the organization of the Jeux Olympiques. So Gabriel Attal will I think, stay in charge for a few weeks. That's constitutionally okay. It's totally legal. But then politics will find its way, and a new prime minister will be designated, most probably among the NFP. But we can rule out that Emmanuel Macron nominates someone from the center also.